Hello, this video is about the main notions in language teaching. I would like first to introduce myself, Professor DJAILEB, Department of English, Faculty of Languages, University of Oran 2. This video is going to help us to understand really the importance of the issues raised in the field of language teaching in general, the relationship between didactics and pedagogy, to see the strong link between the applied linguist and the teacher, and of course to understand really that there is a relation between linguistics and of course didactics. So the main points to be tackled in this discussion: introduction, didactics, definition. It is very important to understand the difference between the applied linguist and the teacher, the difference between an approach, a method and a technique, and of course language teaching methodologies. Without historical perspectives, theories will lack continuity. This is according to Tito in 1968. Many changes occur in the history of curriculum and education. Changes, innovations in LT, and changes in theories of the nature of language. Here we can refer to Kelly 1969, Howard 1984. So they show that issues in language teaching are not new. Today it is English the most studied. Years ago it was Latin. But the question to be raised is who is implicated? Or what is the discipline that contributes to solve problems in FLT? Linguistics may reveal facts about language and language use. Its role is to define the objectives of FLT. We have to understand all this in order to be effective teacher, an effective researcher, and of course to succeed in the process of learning and teaching. Now, didactics definition. So didactics is a discipline that is concerned with the science of teaching and instruction for any given field of study, a branch of pedagogy that is concerned with the theory of education and instruction. Moreover, it involves a very structured approach to teaching. But the main question, how does didactics differ from pedagogy? Didactics is related to theory and practical application and the principal steps in the act of teaching, whereas pedagogy is the correlation between the teaching material and the intellectual capacity and the expectations of the learners. Pedagogy deals with the success of the teachers in the transfer of knowledge, and this is very important. For example, in teaching, two processes are involved. Appraisal, which means theory and consists of the interpretation of ideas and the evaluation of the findings to determine their validity. The second pragmatic process is called application. Appraisal is a conceptual evaluation. On the other hand, application is an empirical evaluation, and this is according to Widowson 1990. In addition, didactics is a theory of teaching, and in a wider sense, a theory and practical application of teaching and learning. For example, in the Anglo-Saxon tradition, the Oxford Dictionary defines didactics as a particular moral instruction. In simple terms, didactics is synonymous with teaching and instruction, and yet at the same time, a didactic approach involves a very structured and informed approach to teaching. Now, what is the difference between didactics and pedagogy? So, the difference is as follows. While didactics is a discipline that is essentially concerned, for example, with the science of teaching and instruction for any given field of study, pedagogy is focused more specifically on the strategies, methods, and techniques associated with the process of teaching and learning. Let's talk now about the difference between the applied linguist and the teacher. The applied linguist does not devote his time to the classroom. He does not engage in the operational activities. He contributes in the identification of ideas. He presents arguments for the validity of the theories. The teacher is a facilitator for the task of the teaching and learning process. The teacher must be eclectic, organizer, and a guide in teaching. So, applied linguistics is the mediation between theory and practice. Insights are presented by the applied linguist and mediated by the teacher, who is a facilitator. The role of the applied linguist is to identify these insights and validate them. According to Spitcoder 1973, the researcher is the producer of theories and the teacher is a consumer. For Brumfield 1983, the domain of the researcher is that of the teacher. In addition, the researchers must not provide the teacher with one methodology because the teacher may be not prepared for change, which means he will not be able to adapt to new situations. The insights presented by the applied linguist are mediated by the teacher. Therefore, applied linguistics is an interdisciplinary field which identifies, investigates, and offers solutions to language-related real-life problems. Some of the academic fields related to applied linguistics are education, communication research, psychology, anthropology, and sociology. It is also one of the academic disciplines focusing on how language is acquired and used in the modern world. Its aim is to promote a principled approach to language education and other languages. Within the field of applied linguistics, the need to see language as functional and discourse-based, thus the emergence of systemic and descriptive linguistics as resources for problem solving, particularly in USA. The need to recognize and apply a wide range of research tools and methodologies to address locally situated language problems. In order to understand the strong link between linguistics and language teaching in this video, let's talk about language description and language use. Of course, this is based on the work of Widowson 1979. Language is used to perform communicative acts rather than to construct correct grammatical sentences. Usage is separated from context. In this sense, grammar is not enough because some sentences are grammatically acceptable, but they can sound unnatural. In order to avoid such ambiguities, we have to relate them to use. In fact, knowing a language implies a grammatical knowledge and how to apply it in context. We should be aware that the use of utterances in communication determines the representation of grammar without neglecting use, register, genre, and situation. So linguistic description can be thought of as an exploitation of insights about the nature of language. All these will pave the way to effective teaching and for the design of a syllabus with communicative orientation. Therefore, the meaning of a word is specified by semantic properties. Knowing a language involves knowing the pragmatic meaning of the sentences, since language is a communicative system. It is crucial to relate usage to use. The notion of knowing and doing. In fact, knowing a language implies knowing the grammatical norms and how to apply them in context. Thus, the meaning of sentences is drawn by reference to linguistic competences. In fact, the description of language is the way in which the language system is broken and described for the purpose of learning. The study of language, linguistics, and that of teaching are essential to the teacher. The difference between an approach, a method, and a technique. An approach is a set of assumptions dealing with the nature of language teaching and learning at the level of theory. A method is a procedure of teaching, the way of teaching, a plan for the presentation of language material. A technique is a trick. It takes place in the classroom in order to accomplish an objective For example, the proposers of the reform movement are at the level of approach, and the direct method is at the level of a method which is derived from this approach. In order for an approach to lead to a method, it is necessary to develop a design for an instructional system. All the principles, approaches, and assumptions depend on the teacher's savoir-faire. It is methodology which determines the outcomes. Grammar translation method, reading literary text, memorization of vocabulary, translation and the speaking skill was not allowed. The direct method, interactions, everyday vocabulary was taught. The listening skill and the speaking skill were taught. It was used in private schools. The audiolingual method, the focus was on the speaking skill and on inductive learning rather than deductive learning. Communicative language teaching, or CRT. It is a set of principles about teaching. The focus is on use. The learners perform tasks, the case of the task-based syllabus. It takes into consideration the communicative dimension. The objective is to achieve meaning. For instance, CLT was a reaction against structural approaches. I would like you to understand, remember, that it is an approach and not a method as mentioned before in this video. The communicative approach with a combination of different methods to rely on authenticity, authentic task, authentic text, and authentic materials. It has been seen as a response to the audiolingual method and the development of the notion and functional syllabus and the task-based syllabus. So, the main goal of CLT is to put knowledge of language into action. Language teaching methodology, authentic language in real context, task to promote speaking, how to focus on aspects of language, building schematic procedures. First of all, authentic language in real context. To rely on authenticity, text, tasks, and materials in order to motivate the students in the classroom, since the students are not native speakers. Tasks to promote speaking, performance of task, role plays, interpretations of tables and charts. How to focus on aspects of language. For example, encourage conversations in the classroom. Building schematic procedures. To rely on the schematic knowledge as a strategy to facilitate the comprehension of text. By schematic knowledge, we mean previous knowledge about the word. We try to demonstrate the importance of some of the concepts related to language teaching and to rely on innovative methods of teaching in order to motivate the learners to achieve meaning. Well, the teacher should reconsider his or her procedures, techniques and motivations in order to create a new environment. Learning a language is not a matter of mastery of rules, but the ability to use them in context. I hope that this video helped you to understand really these introductory concepts related to language teaching. Dear students, I would like you to read these two books, Richard Jack and Theodore Rogers, 1986, Approaches and Methods in Language Teaching, and Widdowson, 1990, Aspects of Language Teaching, to learn more about FLT.